So, Jeff, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Eric, for inviting me. Thank you.
All right, Jeff. Of course, you know, you and your brother Mick have been playing for almost 40 years. But I want to know a little bit about you. Was there any music at home when you were growing up?
Music was massive when I was growing up. You know, England, Britain was a massive base for, you know, for music. I mean, starting, you know, I can remember as a kid, I was born in 1964 at an early age listening to the Stones and the Beatles, you know, and, you know, then we got into the early 70s and there was a current of hard rock and the older brothers would bring home Led Zeppelin albums and Deep Purple and you'd sneak to play them. And then you had the glam rock when I was about 9 or 10 with Slade, Sweet, T-Rex, and then punk come when I was about 12 years old. So yeah, there was lots of music, lots of things happening in England.
And during this time of discovering artists, you were going out and seeing bands?
I didn't the first bands I went out and see, I must have been about 12 years old, really. It was when the punk thing. So, funny enough, the first live band I ever see was Status Quo. But they was really good. I think I was about 11 years old. I went with my brother-in-law, who was a fan. And then after that, yeah, I started going to a lot of punk gigs and rock gigs. Because in London, in 1977, 78, 79, you could go and see any band, really. They was playing every night. You know, you had the Damned, or you could go and see, you know, Black Sabbath were playing, or you could see the Clash, the Jam, and so many punk bands. It really, really was good times, you know, and I got to see a lot of bands. I did.
Do you remember if there was any time that you look to your brother's eyes and say, hey, man, we got to do something?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the first one was seeing the Ramones in 1978 for the first time. Although I had their records, I think I was 13 when I went to see them. And me and Mick, we used to go to the gigs together all the time, you know, and seeing AC/DC as well, I think in about 1977 when I was about 13, and seeing Angus Young as well, you know, and I just said, that's just something I'd love to do. You know, but obviously we didn't have any money and any instruments, so it was a dream. But you know, we got there in the end. Not on that level, but we got there.
Yeah, sure. And what do you remember from the first two albums from the Rejects, both released in 1980 in March and September, Volume 1 and Volume 2?
Yeah, I remember Volume 1. We actually started recording that in 1979. We got a call to go up to Polydor Studios. I think it was in September 1979. And we recorded I'm Not a Fool and East End. And then the record companies got involved. And then we got signed to EMI. And then they was obviously the first two songs for that album. And I remember Volume 1 was a great time for us. And we was trying to make our own sound, but obviously we was very influenced by, I would say, the Pistols, and that was my favourite punk band, and the guitar sound. And if you listen to Greatest Hits Volume 1, it's not all at a fast pace, like the Pistols wasn't a fast-paced band, you know, like in late years, like the Exploited and GBH, that kind of punk. I'm not sure, you know, they're mates of mine and they're good bands, but that was a lot quicker. And I remember Volume 1 had a lot of really, 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 we was really hungry. And that album to me meant everything. Time we got round to Greatest Hits Volume 2, it's a good album, but it doesn't measure up to Greatest Hits Volume 1.
Yeah, of course, time went by. You went on being a great, great band, known in every country in the world. You released Eastern Babylon in 2012, and now you have an upcoming album, and you just released a single for Runaway Boys, a Stray Cats cover song. What can we expect from this new album?
Eastern Babylon, yeah, but was very much like a kind of a punky album, a lot of rock. With this album, there's 14 songs on it, I always wanted to do Runaway Boys. I like the Stray Cats. And people go, why don't you do a cover? And I always liked the Stray Cats and I love that song. So I wanted to do it. And because I know a lot of the punks and skinheads, they like the Stray Cats and they still go to see them. I wanted to do that. What people can, with this album, listen, it's, when you come to our time of life, I think it's unfair to be writing about like the same things you did when you was 14 about, you know, smashing windows, running down back streets, you know, fighting at the football. We don't do any of that now. So I tend to, like, the lyrics are about things, you know, streetwise that affect you, you know, in later life. You know, there's a song on there on the new album called Up for the Fight. And it's not about fighting. It's about somebody I know who was diagnosed with cancer. And he died, and he was fighting to look after his kids and his wife. You know, you start to write things in different contexts. The album has got some classic, like, punky songs. It's got some hard rock songs, and it's got some pop songs. It's the Rejects. I don't think now we fall into one category. We're a rock band, like, and you know, we're still the same people as we are. Nobody's sold out or. You know, but I'm very, very pleased with the album, how it's going at the moment. And I really do like it. It's very, very, it's loud. It's guitar driven. And, you know, that's what it is. Whether people like it or not, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion, you know. But I don't think that they'll be expected, like, you know, Greatest Hits Volume 2, you know, songs like Urban Gorilla or whatever, because, you know, you move on.
Yeah.
But I do like it. Yeah, I'm going to say that. You know, I think it'd be a very good album. You know, and I hope the Runaway Boys thing. We got a lot of good, positive feed from that. You know, from Runaway Boys. So the album's really a lot in the same vein.
You're supposed to tour November and December. I imagine you're very excited about that. And I would like to know if you remember when was the last time you got on stage to play music.
Yeah, I do remember. It was February the 1st in last year, which was, so we've been 14 months without a show. And that was a place called The Fleece in Bristol, which is a fantastic venue. I think we played there about 6 times. And it was a fantastic gig. It was really, really good show. But I wouldn't have guessed then that, you know, we wouldn't be playing for another 14 months. I'll be honest with you, Eric. I really, really hope that we can play in November and December in the UK, but I think it's 50-50. I'm not sure yet. You know, Rebellion's supposed to be coming up in August. I'm not sure whether that will go ahead. And gigs that I've had booked in Europe, it seems as if they're all being put back till 2022, you know? And it's really frustrating. I mean, you know, I'd love to come back to Argentina and come back to Brazil and play them places, you know, like in South America. I'm hoping, you know, one day that we'll get to do that because time's going quickly and we're all getting older, you know, and like everybody, I wish this pandemic, if we could return to normal and just start playing shows again, it'd be a wonderful thing, you know, but I'm not sure it'll happen. If it doesn't, well, I've had a great life in rock and roll. So, you know, everything has to come to an end. But I'd rather it ended on our own terms rather than, you know, some illness dictating it, you know?
Yeah, great. And I know you've been writing a column for GHQ magazine, right?
Yeah, that's right, Eric, yeah.
What can you tell us about it? It's mainly about sports, right?
Yeah, I got asked to do it by Jason Alday, who had the GHQ Gentleman's Headquarters magazine. And he asked me about doing a monthly column. And I said, yeah, it's something I'd love to do. I mean, a lot of it's about, you know, East End gangsters and things like that and gangsterism. But I like to try and write differently. You know, a lot of sport involved with me, obviously music and, you know, a bit of history about different things, but it gives me an opportunity to write about I never thought of being a columnist. I always wanted to be one, but even though you have to do it, Eric, once a month, it's really hard thinking of to come up with a subject, you know, and think, oh, what am I going to do this month? What am I? And I'm supposed to be writing next month's column this week, and at this moment, I don't know what to write about, but I'll find something. But no, it's lovely. It's a great avenue being able to write for a magazine. It's a great magazine. I really like it. It's good.
I know you're a big boxing fan, and I would like to ask you, what's the current state of boxing in the UK right now?
There's still a lot of shows. Boxing is massive in the UK at the moment. Even though we've had the lockdown, it seems, even though there's a proliferation of titles, and there's so many titles to be won, I think the last 10 years, boxing in England has really, really, really boomed. Obviously, it's the marquee heavyweight division that everybody looks at, you know, and of course, British heavyweights were always like probably the worst like that there was about, you know, and it's now they've got Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury at the top of the table. We're finally taken over from the Americans, so it's a trickle down. The boxing's in a good place, and there's still big shows because it's backed. It's financed by Sky Sports, and you know there's a lot of money and BT Sports, so the fighters can still get good paydays. You know, and it's a shame, and that's what I wonder. You know, with Argentina, I mean, because there was so many great champions. You know, like from Argentina. I even met, like, you know, the heavyweight like Oscar Bonavena and people like that, you know, and then you go like great for Santos Lacia and, you know, obviously Carlos Monzon, Marcos Maidana. There's been so many great Argentinian fighters. And I'm going to ask you this. I know, what's the state of boxing at the moment in Argentina?
There's been a few shows, but nothing like a world title, but just regional thing. Like Latin belts and Argentine belts are on the line, but not a world title yet in Argentina. This week it was I don't know if you heard of him, Brian Castaño. He's going to fight for a world title, but not in Argentina.
Right, he'd have to go to America or whether to fight for it.
Yes, he's going to fight in the US.
In the US,
Yes, but the fighters are training. They are getting paid. Of course, there's a new lockdown and there's time restrictions. The government hasn't. There's kind of like a gray area around it. We just have to wait and see what's going on. But I really want the fighters to keep fighting. Some of my friends are professional Muay Thai fighters and MMA fighters, and they just lost their bouts.
Of course they do. And that's what they want to do. And it's so sad that they can't. I mean, you know, the gym I trained at, the Peacock Gym, it's famous. I trained at it, but it's closed now. The COVID come along, and they're not reopening the gym. They're selling it up now to a property developer, and I'm really, really sad. I'm devastated at that. At the moment, training sessions, we have to go over to a park, like, because none of the amateur clubs or the boxing club, if you're a professional fighter, they can only train within their bubble of professionals. So people like myself and many others, you can't get into the gyms to train, you know, and it's really frustrating, Eric. But it's you know, I just hope that maybe if we fast forward 12 months or something, we can be sitting here having this conversation and think, oh, do you remember when we couldn't get in the gyms and you couldn't go to a boxing match or a football match, you know? And hopefully that it's, you know, that we can just get rid of this and get back to some normality.
You can't train, but you still have West Ham.
West Ham, I don't want to talk about them today. They let us down.
I know, but
I knew it had happened.
But if you can laugh about it, it's okay.
Yeah. I knew it had happened. No, I watched West Ham today. I switched off after a while. I couldn't watch no more. But hey, we've had a good season, and it's good to still see people out there playing, and hopefully we can get back and watch our football teams next season.
Jeff, I really wanted to thank you for taking a few minutes for talking to me, okay? I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for asking me, Eric. You know what I mean? It's always great when when people like ask, and I'm thrilled to be asked. It's really, really nice of people, you know, really nice. And thank you. If there's anything, you got my number, stay in contact, you know.